Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Psalm 49, we gather some information about wealth and the true nature of wealth and riches. And this psalm can help us to have the right perspective when we consider riches. The introduction to this would be found in verses 1 through 4, where it says, "Hear this, all peoples, give ear, all inhabitants of the world, both low and high, rich and poor together. My mouth will speak wisdom, and the meditation of my heart will be understanding. I will incline my ear to a proverb. I will express my riddle on the harp." All right, so the psalmist here is being very specific. He's saying that this psalm applies to both the low and the high, and both the rich and the poor. And so these truths that we learn about riches apply to both. Because when it comes to wealth and riches, there's a temptation that relates to both classes. If you're rich, then the temptation is to put too much trust in your wealth and to make that your God, what you put your faith and trust in. If you're poor, then the temptation is to be envious of the rich and wish that you had what other people have and to covet other people's wealth. And so both classes, whether you're rich or poor, they both need to understand wealth in the proper way. And there's some truths connected to this. And the first truth the psalmist brings out is that you can't redeem a person's life with money. It says in verse 5, "Why should I fear in the days of adversity when the iniquity of my foes surrounds me, even those who trust in their wealth and boast in the abundance of their riches? No man can by any means redeem his brother or give to God a ransom for him. For the redemption of his soul is costly, and he should cease trying forever, that he should live on eternally, that he should not undergo decay." Wealth cannot redeem a person's life. Wealth is not sufficient for bringing a person from the grave or keeping them from undergoing decay. We don't have enough wealth. We don't have enough money to pay the price to redeem a person. And so this should help us to understand that no matter how wealthy we become, it cannot save us from our ultimate fate. And that's important for the rich person to understand and for the poor person to understand as well. And then he brings out the point of, or the fact that possessions are temporary. In verse 10, "For he sees that even wise men die, and the stupid and senseless alike perish, and leave their wealth to others." So you might be wealthy, but you're going to perish just like the poor person, and all that wealth you accumulated is going to be passed on to someone else. Their inner thought is that their houses are forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They have called their lands after their own names. Wealthy people seem to think that their houses, their possessions are going to last forever. And they attach their names a lot of times to these various possessions, particularly lands and buildings and things like that, thinking that will perpetuate their wealth and keep it going. In verse 12, "But man in his pomp will not endure. He is like the beasts that perish." A theme that will be repeated later on in the psalm, but the idea that we're going to die just like the animals, and therefore the wealth isn't going to stay with you. It's going to be passed on to someone else. So the wealth that a person might have is just temporary. It won't last really for that long. It's gonna perish. The person who has the wealth is going to perish, and the possessions will just be scattered or passed on to someone else. The third truth is that death will have the upper hand when it comes to wealth. In verse 14, "As sheep, they are appointed for Sheol, which is the place of the dead. Death shall be their shepherd, and the upright shall rule over them in the morning, and their form shall be for Sheol to consume." So one day, death is going to overtake them, and death will have the upper hand. It seems as though today the wealthy have the upper hand. It seems like they have everything going for them, but really death has the ultimate goal. He goes on to say, "So that they have no habitation." Verse 15, "But God will redeem my soul from the power of Sheol, for he will receive me." So only God has the ability to redeem a person's soul and to overtake death. Money's not going to do it. And the wealthy aren't going to be able to overcome that obstacle. Death ultimately will prevail when it comes to people who are just trusting in their wealth and not trusting in God. And then the last truth is that you can't take it with you, which is kind of ties with everything else that was said. It says in verse 16, "Do not be afraid when a man becomes rich, when the glory of his house is increased. For when he dies, he will carry nothing away. His glory will not descend after him. Though while he lives, he congratulates himself. And though men praise you when you do well for yourself, he shall go to the generation of his fathers. They will never see light. Man in his pomp, yet without understanding, is like the beasts that perish." So the famous saying, the cliche, you can't take it with you, is true. And the scriptures affirm that here in Psalm 49. Once you die, you can't take your wealth with you. And we're going to be, at least from this perspective, we're going to be dead a lot longer than we're alive, especially at least in this particular time frame and in this particular situation. And so having wealth for these few short years isn't really as important as we might think it is, because we can't take it with us. We can't take it with us whether we go to heaven or whether we go down to hell. Wherever we end up, we can't take it with us. And so these are some truths that we can learn from when it comes to the rich, or it comes to wealth. You can't redeem a person's life with money. Possessions are temporary. Death will eventually have the upper hand, and you can't take it with you. And so as we meditate on this and think about this, we walk away saying, you know what? I'm not going to make my life about wealth and accumulating a lot of stuff. That's not really where true happiness lies. That's not where the true sustenance of life resides. Really, the true approach to life is to have a relationship with God and to store up wealth and riches in heaven, where we will have a permanent dwelling place and a permanent place to be with God. That is in the new heavens and the new earth, in which we will inherit the new heavens and new earth as we place our faith in Jesus Christ and walk a life of faithfulness before Him. So whether we're poor or we're rich, let's remember these truths. Let's not envy the rich if we are poor, and let's not boast in our wealth if we are rich. Let's just humbly walk before God, putting our faith and our trust in Him, and living a life that is well-pleasing to Him. So with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.